Hello, let's do the New York Times Medium Sudoku for April 28th, 2024. There is a link in the description if you'd like to try the puzzle yourself using the same Sudoku pad software for free. And I'm going to get started right now. Now, I take a very systematic approach to the medium solve. I'm still somewhat systematic in the hard, but I do bounce around a little bit more. Here, we're going to focus on the things that I think you should be looking for first, and then we'll follow up afterwards if we need to with things that are a bit like, okay, that didn't finish it. What else can we look for? Which sometimes happens in these puzzles and sometimes doesn't. We'll see what this one does. So the very first thing I want you to do is look at each band kind of in isolation. We will be peeking down a little bit, but only in very specific situations. So we're dealing with each band individually. A band is a row of 3 boxes. So terms I'm going to be using: row, column, box, cell, band, and stack. Stack being a column of 3 boxes. Okay, so there are 3 bands in the puzzle, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to go through each one. We're going to make sure we're done with a band before we move on to the next one. And there are a few things we're going to look for in order. So the first thing to look for is repeated digits, where a digit appears twice exactly. 3 times we don't care about because it's already done. Once, also ignoring. 3 times that, or sorry, twice, that is the good number. Okay. So what I recommend doing is starting with the box with the fewest number of givens in it, because we're going to have to do comparisons, 3 comparisons, each box against each other box. So starting with this one here, we can get rid of 2 comparisons right away with the least number of lookings. So we need to look for the 1 and the 3. We don't see a 1 or a 3 in either box. And so now we only have to do 1 comparison, which is this box against this box. We'll start with the one with the least in it, 4 and 5. And I do see we have a 4 and a 5. Now we take those one at a time. So the 4 has a repeat here. Now what are we looking to do with this? Well, we're looking for the third 4 in the band, because every band has 3 of each digit, 1 per row and 1 per box. That makes 3, not 6, obviously. And so we want to look at the box that these 4s aren't in. And we want to see how these 4s affect that box in terms of where the 4 can go. Well, it's going to limit 4 to the row that these aren't in, right? Because this 4 is going to remove 4 from repeating in this row. This 4 removes 4 from repeating in this row. And so this row is the only row left in the box that can have a 4. And now what we want to do, this is where we're going to be glancing down. We want to glance down and see if we see any 4s that might be removing 4 as an option from any of these cells. So this 4 removed that. And then also, of course, this 1 is occupying one of the spots. So ultimately, we're down to just 1 cell in this box that can be 4. And so it must be 4. And that's called a hidden single. A hidden technique is always going to involve a row, column, or box. In general, we can call those a house being a set of 9 cells where you can't repeat digits. So generically, you got house, and then you got row, column, box under it, right? So if you have a house-centric technique where you're looking for a digit within an entire house, that is going to be called a hidden technique because it's harder to see. You have to kind of discover it. Okay. And so we found a hidden single 4 in this box. And now we have 2 5s. Don't forget to do the 5s as well. They remove it from these rows. We do have a 5 down here, but the 3 is doing the same thing. And so actually the 5 is limited to 2 cells in this box. We can't place it. We're not going to be guessing. Guessing is bad. There's only one solution to the puzzle. Once you start guessing, like here, I'd have a 50% chance of breaking the puzzle. We only want to do things that have a 100% chance of being true. We want to do a logical solve here. So what I do, though, is I want to remember. That's very interesting to remember that 5 is only down to 2 cells in this box. That can become very handy later. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the corner mark mode of Sudoku Pad, and I'm going to put 5s in the corner of both of these cells. And so what the 5s mean is exactly what I said, is in this box, only the cells with a 5 corner marked can have a 5 in them. So if a corner mark exists in a box, then the corner marks for that number are the exhaustive list of cells that digit can go into in that box. And it's always the box. We don't do it for the row or the column. Just kind of a limitation of scanning. It keeps things local, keeps things within a small area. But anyway, we only will corner mark if we are down to 3 or fewer cells in the box. Always if it's 2. If it's 3, only if it's all in the same row or the same column. So like if all 3 of these were 5, we could do it. But if these 3 were 5, we would not quarter mark that, because we want to be able to draw lines between these. And if I do this, I can get confused about thinking that there's a line here and there's a line here, and I might do an invalid piece of logic if I'm not noticing everywhere that I corner marked the 5s. Okay, so we're going to keep doing that. Now, that is all the repeats for this box. But before we move on, there are 2 things to check for. The first thing we're going to check for is if any of the rows are completely filled. In this case, they are not. In fact, I don't have any examples on the grid right now of a completely filled row, but let's say we filled this. Let's say this for some reason was an 8. Then now this row would be completely filled and we'd have other things to do with it. But it is not an 8. Let's not keep that there. I mean, it might be, but we don't know. So we're not going to keep that there. And so we don't have any of that. And then the final thing we're looking for is any row or box that has been reduced to 4 or fewer open cells. An open cell is anything that's not filled in. So in this case, like this row is down to 7, right? This row is down to 5. We don't have any rows or boxes down to 4. So we're gonna move on. Once we hit those situations, I'll tell you what to do with them. Now I'm going to compare this 1 and 8 against these 2 boxes. I do see the 8 repeats here. So we can corner mark 8s in one of these 2 cells. The 1 has nobody, but we're going to compare these 2 against each other. I'm going to do the 4, 6, and 9. So the 4 and the 9 are repeating. Sorry, the 4, 6, and 9 repeat. Actually, that's nice. So we have these 2 4s looking in. This 4 looks down. This isn't 4, so we have a hidden single 4. Now we're going to do the 6s. We can corner mark 6 across all 3 because they are all in a line. That's the only time we will corner mark them. That will always be true in this phase where we find repeated digits. And then the 9 looks in here. This 9 looks up, and we have a 9 in one of these 2. Okay. That's all the repeats. So what do we look for next? We look for filled rows, none of those. And we look for rows or boxes that are down to 4 or fewer open digits. This row is 5. This box is 5. Yeah, I don't think there's any. So we're going to move on. All right. I'm just going to start with, they all have 2 given, so I'll just start here. The 8 and the 9, we do have the 8 repeating. So the 8's in one of these 2 cells. Now, this is something to be looking for. It's a little bit more advanced, but if you can spot it as soon as you place it, you are going to have a much easier time on some puzzles. So what has happened here? Well, I looked up. As soon as I placed 2 corner marks in a box, I looked up and I saw that this box right above it, it could have also been true of this box up here, but just another box in the stack has also 8s limited to the same 2 columns. So you can kind of see these kind of lining up, right? The 8s almost look the same, right? The 8s are in these two columns. In here, the 8s are in these 2 columns. Let's think about the consequence of that, right? This column here is going to need an 8. And we already know that this box and this box is not going to have an 8 in that column. So where does the 8 go in this column? Well, it has to be from this box. And so really what we've done is we've identified that in this column, there are only 2 cells that can be an 8. This 8 says not here. This is a 2. This 8 says not here. This is a 9. These 2 8s say not these 2, right? And this 4 says not here. So really, we know that 8 in this column is going to end up in one of these 2. But the reason I saw that is because I saw these lining up in these 2 boxes. The more you can spot this, even though most of the time you're going to look and find nothing, if you can spot that, that's going to really, really, really help your solve. So we're going to corner mark 8s up here. And you might have just heard me say we only corner mark for boxes. We don't corner mark for rows or columns. But you just corner marked for a column. What's going on, Rangsk? Well, what's going on is it is limited in the box to these 2. It cannot go in these cells because if I tried to put an 8, say here, in fact, that was my example from earlier, that breaks the puzzle. If I try to put an 8 here, where am I putting the 8 in this column? And the answer is nowhere because this 8 removes it from these 2 cells. And we already knew that none of these cells could be 8 because we had these corner marks here telling us that. Therefore, none of these cells are 8. The 8's going to be here or here, and that is a limit in the box. And we're going to be using these 8 corner marks to try to remind us that none of these will end up 8. So we try not to think of 8 as an option for those because we have it corner marked here. All right, and of course I am going to look left to see if I have 8s lining up in the same way over here, but I do not, as far as I can tell. However, I did just scan 8s, and I did just see that we can clean this up a bit. So we do have these 2 8s here, and I am skipping ahead a little bit, but because we're thinking about 8s, I think it's okay to just glance at what 8s are doing to see if there's anything easy to follow up on. If you want, you can wait until you got to this vertical scan, and you would have seen this anyway. But I'm going to do this now. So we have these 2 8s looking up, and these aren't 8. So that we have a hidden single 8 in this box right here. Now that removes one of my corner mark 8s from this box. By removing that corner mark 8, I have left only one corner mark 8 in the box. So that is the only place in the box that can be 8. Remember, we can't put it in these two cells because otherwise that would remove 8 from this column entirely. So really what we found is a hidden single 8 in the column, but the corner marks have told us that this is what's happened. So we can place this 8. And as soon as I do that, there is now only one place for 5 in the box. Based on our corner marks, we can place the 5 as well. Now, when we place digits, we always want to follow up on those digits for things we've already scanned. So for example, we've already scanned this band. So we want to rescan it for the things we looked for. So these 8s do have duplicates. This 8 looks up, and that places the 8 here. I am actually going to just look and see, yeah, now we have limited 8s. We have 7 8s placed, and then the other 2 are going to end up in this rectangle. So we're almost done with 8s, but we can't really follow up more with them. The 5 we placed has 2 buddies. So 5 is done for the band. We don't need to worry about it. But there is one more thing that we did. What was one thing that I said to look out for? It was filling up a row. Now we have 2 of those in this band. Let's start with this one. Because this row is filled up, we can think about having virtual buddies for any digits over here. What do I mean by that? Let's start with this 2. So this 2, if it had a buddy over here, it would have the consequence of having a buddy, say here, with this 2, putting a 2 up here. Well, look, we have the same thing happening without the need of this 2 over here, because these can't be 2, because they're filled with non-2s. And then this 2 looks in, this 2 looks up, so we can corner mark 2 in one of these. When we do that, we can do something called pointing. What is pointing? Well, in this box, the 2 is here or here. It's not here, here, or somewhere else. It's literally, these are the 2 options. Those are the only 2 options. In the final solution, you will see that there will be a 2 here, or there will be a 2 here. Those are the options. We don't know which one, but what we do know is whichever one it ends up in, it will end up in row 1. And row 1 can only have a single 2 in it. So these can't actually be 2, because if they were, there would be nowhere to put 2 in this box, right? There'd be 2 2s in this row, both of which are bad. So there's no 2 over here, and this 2 here looks in, and so there is a 2 down here. And so that virtual digit is always going to be true. And so you can just put them both in immediately. Corner marked or hidden singled. Very, very handy. So what else up here? Well, we're looking for any digits that we haven't already taken care of in the box. So 4, 8, and 5 taken care of, 5 and 8 taken care of. So that's all we can do with that. Now we're going to look at this filled one. We're going to look at these digits. So again, 4, 5, 8 already taken care of. The 4, 5, 8 taken care of, but we do have the 1 and the 3. So the 1 is going to look in here. It's going to make a buddy 1 here and a buddy 1 here. We have this 1 here preventing it from being there. And then the 3 is going to have a buddy here, and it's going to have a buddy up here. But we have this 3 looking up, which I didn't notice. Sometimes I don't notice things. That's why the red marks are mostly on to keep me from making a silly mistake that makes the solve less instructive. So we had this 3 looking in and this 3 looking up. And so this is the only place for 3. We can place it. This is still true that 3 is up here somewhere. I just overmarked. Okay, so now we don't have any more filled rows to look at, but we do have some rows and boxes down to 4 or fewer. Start with the one with the least number. So this box is down to 3 and this row is down to 3. Pick one. I'm going to pick the box first. We know the 1 is down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to center mark it. I'll explain the center marks in a second. So we have the 2, 3, 4, 5. We need 6 and we need 9. Okay, so the first thing that I notice is that this 9 looking in is leaving a hidden single 9 here. That removed a corner mark 1. That puts a 1 here. And then now that's a 6. Now, before I do that, let's talk about our center marks. So what the center marks are telling us is exactly which digits are still possible to go in that single cell. So center marks are cell-centric markings. And anything that we find related to center marks is going to be called a naked technique, because if you were to center mark the cell, it would be nakedly obvious. It's not as obvious as the technique claims, but compared to a hidden, it can feel a bit more obvious, especially if you're doing a lot of center marking, which is traditionally how Sudoku was solved. I would not recommend doing a lot of center marking for puzzles like this. I think it's more fun to do it this way. But anyway, what these mean is that this cell, for example, this is a naked single. because it has only one candidate. And you can visibly see there is only one candidate left for the cell. Let's go through it. It can't be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, or 9. I just listed off 8 digits it can't be. Luckily, it can't. Luckily, it can be one of them. Otherwise, we have broken the puzzle because it needs a digit. And since it needs a digit and 6 is the only possible digit, it ends up 6. Now 6 is removed from these two because you can't repeat 6 in the box. And now this is a naked single 1. And now this is a naked single 9. Notice we filled it kind of in the opposite order of the hiddens. And that's always going to be true. So instead, what we could have done is instead of center marking these, we could have said, well, this 9 in this box is actually limited to just here. That removed one of my 1 corner marks. And now this is full house 6. It's the last digit for the box. Notice the same digits went in, but in the complete opposite order. Kind of interesting, right? Now we've reduced this row down to 2 cells. So let's think about that. We need the 7 and 9. So this 9 tells us this can't be the 9. So the 9 goes here. And then now the last digit for the row is a 7. We call that a full house. Now this row is down to 2 digits only. By the way, I told you that these 8s here would be useful. Look, it's finishing this band. So we know one of them's the 2. The other one is the 6. So we need 2 and 6. I'm just going to center mark that. And once I have this 2-6 pair center marked, I really don't need the 2 corner marked there. So I'm going to clean that up. Keeps it from being so busy. But the 2-6 are not resolved, so we'll leave that way. And now this is a triple and this is a triple. So we know this is 1, 3, and 9. We know this one's not 9, this one's not 1, and we don't need the corner marks. And then over here, the triple, that's basically just the 3 digits remaining in the box, right? We need the 2, the 6, and the 7. That's not the 6 because of that 6. That's not the 2 because of that 2. And we don't need the corner marks again. So now I would call this band done in the sense that the band, looking horizontally on the band, is not going to be helpful anymore because we only have horizontal pairs and triples left. We don't have anything vertical going on. And you need stuff vertical going on in order to have a band resolve itself. So we don't really need to worry about following up in this band, except if we get a digit within the band itself. I don't know if that makes any sense, but we don't have to worry about like scanning left and right in the band anymore too much between boxes. Basically done, but I'm basically saying we've made some good progress. All right, so all of that was because I was scanning this band down here. So let's finish that, make sure we got everything. So I did have these repeated 8s. We found what the consequence of that was. There are no other repeated digits down here. There are no filled rows. There are no rows or boxes down to 4 or fewer. So now we are done with the scanning of the bands. Notice we only scanned these 3 bands. We did do some follow-ups, which this was a very important follow-up. And we also skipped ahead a little bit to do these 8s. But that was all worth it because look what we got out of that. All right, now we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to do it with stacks. So I'm going to start with this 8 and 9. We do have all 3 8s, so that's not helpful. The 9s we only have 1 of. The 1 and 4, we're ignoring the 8 because we already tried it. We do have a duplicate for the 4. So these 4s look down, putting a 4 in one of these 2 cells. There are no other repeats. There are no filled columns. And now we're going to be looking for boxes or columns down to 4 or fewer, and I do not see any. So we're going to move on. Start with this 3 and 8. The 3 has a 3 up here, buddy. That actually places the 3 here. Now, as soon as we place that 3 here, we want to follow up in this band that we already scanned. So we're going to look for buddy 3s. We're also going to look for if we have filled up a row or if I've reduced a row or box down to 4 or fewer. Well, I have reduced this box to 4 or fewer. So I'm going to hold off on that because I'm going to be looking for that in the stack anyway. And I think that there's going to be more duplicates here that'll be helpful to look at first. So we'll do that box thing afterwards. Because if it was one of these boxes, I would do it. But this box is already part of the stack. There's no reason to skip ahead. All right, so that was the 3. The 8 we have all 3 of. So now we just care about this 4, 6, and 9. So the 4, all of these are going to have a buddy up here because it's filled. So we have the 4, the 6. The 6 also looks down like this. Now here's another thing that I want you to trigger in your head as soon as this happens. I want you to think about the consequence of the fact that these 4s and 6s exactly overlap in 2 cells. What do the 4s mean? What do the 6s mean? How do they interact? All right, pause if you need to, but I'm going to give the answer. Okay, so what we found is called a hidden pair. It's very, very powerful. So the 4 in this box means that 4 has been limited to these 2 cells. The 6 in this box means, the 6 corner mark, means that the same two cells I've limited 6 to. How many cells do I need in order to place the 4 and the 6 in the box? Well, I need 2 cells for that. Can't put both the 4 and the 6 in one of these cells, and I can't omit them from the box. So the consequence is, in the final solution, one of these will be 4 and one of these will be 6. We don't know which is which, but because we know exactly what these cells will end up as, we can put a 4-6 pair in there. We can remove the corner marks. Now, the consequence of that is because any hidden technique is going to remove other possible candidates from that cell. So as an example, there's no reason what we thought before that we couldn't put, say, a 1 in this cell. There's no 1 in the row, there's no 1 in the column, there's no 1 in the box. 1 seems like a pretty safe candidate. Why wouldn't 1 also be center marked in here? Well, the answer is because it needs to be a 4 or a 6, right? The hidden pair has told us, no, actually it can't be a 1. So what we want to do as soon as we place a hidden pair or hidden triple or hidden anything is to think about what digits were removed from those cells and how that affects any shared, basically how it affects anything shared with those cells. So for example, we removed 1 from these 2 cells. So what does that mean for this column? Well, actually, we can look at this column a bit more generically, and we can see that we basically know where the 4 and 6 go in this column. They go down here, right? Because they don't go here. And so what we're going to end up is 3 remaining digits for this column, and we can just center mark those. And I would do that here instead of thinking about how the 1 is specifically affected in the column, because the 3 digits here are going to be the 3 digits removed from those cells. So we need the 1, we need the 2, we have the 3, 4, we have a 5, 6, we need 7. So we end up with this 1, 2, 7 triple. And then that, if you hadn't seen it yet, I saw it immediately earlier, but if you hadn't seen it yet, now this tells you that this cell is a 5, because we know where the 1, 2, 7 are. They're in these 3 cells for the column. And so basically we can ask, where does the 5 go in this box? And the answer is only here. So that's the 5. And then now, really, there's not much point in doing repeated digits here in corner marking. Like we could do the 9 still, but we're just going to be filling this pair and this triple vertically. So let's just do that. So this column needs a 2, and actually this 2 says not here, so we can finish the column. That's a 2. This is it's now a full house. We can place the final digit, which is 7. And then now this is a triple for the column or the box, if you prefer. It's going to be the same triple. It's going to be 1, not 3, 1, 5, and 9. That's not 9, that's not 5. Very nice. And now you might notice that this stack is what I would call done, because we only have vertical pairs and triples left. Now we just placed some digits, like this 2 and 7, this 5. Make sure we follow up, right? Let's start by following up in this band here. So let's look at this 3. We already looked at the 3. Let's look at the 5. What is the consequence of this 5? Well, we don't have any buddies. We didn't fill up a row. We did reduce this row to 4 or fewer. So let's think about this row then. So, oh no, yeah, it is 4. Okay. Including this 2, 7, it's 4. So we need the 2. Now, when it's down to 4, I think about it first, because we don't want to mark any cells that are down to all 4 of them. We only want to center mark cells that are down to 3 or fewer digits. So I just think about it first. We need the 2, 3, 7, 8. Now I'm looking for 2, 3, 7, 8 and seeing how they affect these cells. So first of all, we know this one's not 8 or 7. So this is down to 2, 3 only. Very nice. And then over here, 2, 3, 7, 8. We know this cell can't be 3. So 2, 7, 8 is good to mark there. This can be any of 2, 3, 7, 8 as far as I can tell. And so we will not mark it. And when we mark these cells, we are scanning around to see if we see any like thing that it pairs up with or creates a triple with, things like that. In this case, I don't see anything. Now, is there anything else to follow up in these bands? Not that I can see. So now we're going to follow up this band. We did get a buddy for this 2. So that puts a 2 up here somewhere. The 7 does not have a buddy, and we didn't fill up any rows within boxes. And we're looking for rows or boxes down to 4 or fewer open cells, and I'm not seeing any. So now we just move on to the next stack. Sorry, I was just double checking this stack over here to see if we missed anything, because I don't know if there was any follow-ups there, but it doesn't look like it. Okay, back to this stack here. So we look for repeats, 2 and 5. The 5 does have a repeat. Those 5s look in. So there's a 5 in one of these two cells. The 2, nobody for the 2. We have the 4, 6, and 9. So the 4 has a buddy. Looking down, put a 4 in one of those two. The 6 does not. The 9 does. Aha. So this 9 looks in. That places this 9. I was about to say we found another hidden pair, a hidden 4-9 pair, but it's even better because we have this 9 that instantly resolves it. So this ends up 9. And now we removed a 4 corner mark when we placed that 9. So now there's only one 4 corner mark left in the box. So that's a hidden single 4. And now that's a hidden single 8. Let's deal with the horizontal here. This 4 removes this 4 corner mark, placing this 4. It also removes this 4 center mark, making this a naked single 6. So that's a 6. Now this is a naked single 4. This 9 looks in, removing 9 from here, and now there's only one place for 9 in the box. That's something to check for when you've got pairs and when you got triples going on. So that's the only place for 9. Additionally, this 8 did look up here, and it places this 8, hidden single 8. And we're going to have a lot to follow up on. So let's just start with this band, and let's follow up with that first, and then we'll do this band. So we place this 8. That leaves 2, 3, 7 for here. So that's worth marking. And I think that's it for the 8. We still haven't finished scanning the stack. We will do that in a moment if we need to. I think we will. And so now we just placed a bunch of digits down here. So we want to see the consequences of that. What did I place? I placed some 8s. 8s are done. How about this 4 and 9? Yeah, 4s and 9s are also done. Okay, but this row has now, this is now filled and this is now filled, right? So we want to look at that. So let's look at this first. We have these digits to think about. Don't care about the open cells. Don't care about anything already placed in the box. So it's just the 3. So the 3 is going to look in. We're going to have a 3 in one of these two, and then we're going to have a buddy over here, 3 in one of these two. And then now this here, we want to look at. We already know how this box is worked out, right? It's fully marked up. We're not going to find anything more about that, so we don't need to worry about it. But what we can do is now this row is down to 3 open cells. So what are the 3? It's 1, 3, 5. So this cell can't be 1 or 5. So it is down to just 3. We can place the 3. It's a naked single 3. And now this is only 1, 5. Just to finish that row logic. And now we follow up on this 3 vertically. We already did this vertical. First of all, we see that it makes this a naked single 9. That 9 comes back down, making a hidden single 9 in the box because of our corner marks. So we just placed this 3. There are no buddies for the 3. This did get filled though, so let's look at these. So all of these are empty. And then we already know about the 9 and the 4 and the 8s and the 4, but not the 7. So the 7 is going to have a buddy in one of these two, and then also in one of these two. Okay. In fact, this column is now down to 3 open cells, so it's 2, 6, 7. I don't think it's resolved, but this can't be 6. Anything else of note? This 2, 6 pair. Okay, that is all I'm seeing for that stack to do right now. Did this band anything else? Yeah, okay, so this row is down to 4 open cells. So let's think about it. We need 1, 2, 6, 7. So we know this can't be 7. So this is 1, 2, 6. I think this can be any of 1, 2, 6, 7. These can't be 2, so these are down to 1, 6, 7 by default, and then this one can't be the 6. Okay, we are going to return to this stack. We haven't finished scanning it yet, but we're doing follow-ups first. This box is now down to 4. We'll do that with the because we're still looking at this stack, so we'll save that for when we're done with the stack to see if we need to. This box is down to 5. Okay. I'm gonna keep scanning this stack now. In fact, we're gonna kind of start over on the stack, just because I kind of lost track of what I'd done and what I hadn't. So let's just let's start with this box and compare against the other two. So 4, 6, 8, 9. The 8 and the 9 are already finished. The 4 and the 6, 4 is finished. 6 has nobody. Okay, so now just these two against each other. So 2, 4, 5, 8, 9. Nobody for the 2. 4s are done. We do have a buddy for the 5, but it's marked. 8s are done, 9s are done. Okay, so no more repeats to deal with. We do have this filled column though, so we want to look at these, right? And we want to check for anything not already in the box. 9 and 4, 4 and 9, 5 and 8. So 6 is the only one. That 6 looks down, right? So we have a buddy 6 up here. Now, what that does is it tells us that this can't be 6. Remember pointing? Or you can think about it as we need a buddy 6 over here, right? We found where the 6 is in this column. We found where the 6 is in this column. Where's the 6 in this column, right? And the answer is it's only here. So if you want to do, you could do pointing that makes this a 7, or at least remove 6 from here. Or you can just place the 6 here immediately. We finishes this whole triple, which is very nice. So that removes the 2 here, the 7 here. Now we want to look for follow-ups in our band. There aren't any. Remember, the band was done. There aren't going to be follow-ups other than within a box, like we just finished this triple. Now, vertically, there are follow-ups because we have a buddy for the 2 now. There's a 2 in one of those 2. I was quickly looking over to see if either of these boxes had 2 limited to the same 2 rows, and it did not. So we can't do anything with that. I was kind of hoping to place one of these 2s, but we can't. At least not yet. So buddy for the 2, 7. The 7 ends up, it has a virtual buddy, right? Because this 7 is looking down in this box here. Remember, this column is full. So the virtual buddy, we have the 7 in one of these 2, and then our virtual buddy's over here. Well, if the virtual buddy's over here, it's not here, right? These 7s point in is another way to put that. Placing this 3, because it's a naked single 3. Now that removes this corner mark 3, and that does place this 3, which places this 6. Now this is down to a 1-7 pair for the box. The other thing that I noticed here is this does make this a hidden 2-7 pair. Remember, when they're overlapping like that, that is a hidden pair. So that's where the 2-7 are, and so the 1-5 end up here. And now this stack is done. And I'm purposely ignoring this stuff over here, but we will follow up now. So we place this 3. Let's follow up horizontally. First of all, that does finish this triple, the 2 and the 7. All of our follow-ups are going to finish our puzzle at this point, so we just really have to look at the low-hanging fruit at this point. I'm pretty sure. So low-hanging fruit here is that this is a naked single 1, and then this is hidden 2, hidden 7. This is now naked single 5. That finishes the box full house with a 6. This 1 and 5 are resolved. This 7 and 1 are resolved. This can't be 6 anymore. That resolves our 6 and 7 as hidden singles. We get the 2 and the 6 here, the 3 and the 1 here. Notice how, because of what we decided to mark, suddenly finishing the puzzle is super easy. This 7 does give us finish this 2-7 pair, which finishes the 1-2 pair, which finishes the 5-1 pair. Now we just have 2 digits left to place in this box, a 3 and a 5, and we're done. Love that collapse at the end. So as you can see, this puzzle did end up finishing just from our scanning of bands and stacks. It seems like probably one of the key steps of this puzzle was recognizing the lined up 8s here, or rather that 8 was in one of these 2 cells. If you did get stuck on the puzzle, I am going to assume it's on that. Nothing else seemed particularly dastardly. We did have a couple hidden pairs that showed up, which was nice. I don't pretend to remember where they were in this one. For the long solves, my short-term memory doesn't remember the whole puzzle. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. Happy to have any feedback about the pacing and the instruction style. This is intended for people who want to learn exactly rigorously what these techniques do and how they work. In my New York Times hard solves, I assume that you know some of these more basic techniques. Like naked and hidden pairs and triples, like pointing, like claiming, all the things that we did in this puzzle. So I use the mediums to explain them, and I use the hards to employ them a bit more quickly. So yeah, and if you enjoyed this, why not leave a like, subscribe, and a kind comment below.